Good afternoon. You there?
Yes, Governor.
Good afternoon, Governor. And
Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to call to order today's meeting of State of Nevada Executive Branch Audit Committee, or EBAC, as we call it, to order for Tuesday, October 26, 2021 at 1 p.m. Could I ask the clerk to take the roll, please?
Thank you, Governor. Secretary Sagaski,
I'm here.
Treasurer Conine,
Here.
Controller Byrne,
here.
General Ford. Don't believe he'll be here today. Ms. DeLong,
Here.
Chair Governor Sisolak.
Here.
We have a quorum, Governor.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 2, public comment. This is the first time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item on today's agenda, items on the agenda, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments be limited to 3 minutes. I've got no one in Las Vegas. Do we have anybody in Carson City?
No, Governor, it appears we do not.
Okay. Close item number 2. Move on to item number 3, approval of the June 29th minutes. Do I have a motion? So moved. We have a motion for approval. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
We have all ayes and 1 abstain from, I think that was
Controller
Controller Byrne. Okay, thank you. Item number 4, presentation of the audit reports pursuant to NRS 3538.085. This is an information item.
Good afternoon, Governor, members of the committee. For the record, Maria Moreno, Executive Branch Auditor. Representing the State Public Works Division, Leasing Services is Ward Patrick, Administrator. Our audit objective was to improve administration of the state-owned building rentals. Our audit found inconsistent and undocumented rental rate calculations may lead to greater general fund expenditures than appropriate. Leasing Services was unable to provide documentation to support state-owned rental billings contain accurate rental calculations. Implementation of a consistent and standardized approach for measurement of space and rental rate charges would ensure agency confidence in accurate rent billings. We made one recommendation. This was to enhance the transparency and accuracy of rental rate calculations for state-owned buildings. Public Works provided limited documentation to support square footage of occupied space and common area space charged to each agency. Lack of detailed drawings and square footage measurements charged to each agency resulted in unsubstantiated calculations, with rent schedules being carried over year to year without review. Rental rate charges for office space, common area space, and storage space are different, and incorrect classification of each type results in incorrect rental charges. Inconsistent and undocumented rental rate calculations have resulted in a range of variable common area charges billed to state agencies, which may lead to greater general fund expenditures than appropriate. For example, occupants of the Grant Sawyer building were charged between 22% and 67% of rental charges for common area space. Other rental charges billed to state agencies did not align with the use of space. For example, dormitory rental rates were charged for 8,200 square feet of state and mail services building space. The Leasing Services could not explain these variances in calculations and charges. We recommend Leasing Services enhance the transparency and accuracy of rental rate calculations for state-owned buildings by developing policies and procedures, documenting occupied space and common area space charged to each agency, and providing written rental agreements. Other states rely on software solutions to ensure accurate rent calculations, implementing computer-aided design software such as AutoCAD to create and maintain floor plans with measurements detailing agency-occupied and common area space will help Public Works increase transparency and allow agencies to verify rentable area and yearly charges. Providing written rental agreements to each agency occupying state-owned buildings would ensure consistent and standardized measurement of space and calculation of rental rate charges. Updating the agreements as changes occur would be helpful for agencies to understand rental charges and increase confidence that the rates are correct. We appreciate the Leasing Services assistance throughout our audit and thank them for their time and consideration. We would be happy to answer any questions the committee may have at this time.
Do we have any questions from the committee?
I have a few.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Trudy DeLong, public member of the committee. I was just curious as reading through this. I spent most of my career in state and local government, and now I'm currently at a nonprofit. But I'm just wondering if there's any objective to all of this as to the rate you're going to charge. Is it just to cover the operations of the leasing division of Public Works, or is there some methodology built in to trying to fund like maintenance costs that are obviously going to be needed in the future? Or is there some overall objective as to where you're trying to get to with these rates?
Thank you, Ward Patrick, for the record, administrator from the State Public Works Division. So the rental rates are used to develop some over 95% of the budget for the buildings and grounds section. So all the staff for janitorial, for building maintenance, grounds maintenance, HVAC maintenance, that's included in that, which is approximately $16 million a year. And so that rent is covering that cost. There's also kind of immediate and preventive maintenance items that are covered within that rent rate. And then also there's a small projects category of projects under $100,000. And all those items totaling approximately $16 million per year are covered within the rent rate.
Because just to follow up, I mean, the rates I'm seeing down here, they're a flat out bargain for anybody. So and with the way commercial real estate is going to be going anyway, do you guys have any expertise in-house as far as like a commercial real estate broker or something that has that type of background to help you with doing some of these recommendations? Because I think that would be an easy skill set to pick off of, and I think there's going to be a lot of them looking for employment coming out of COVID. But
Yeah,
just curious.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out the rates are very reasonable. I appreciate that. And so that does also include the utilities, you know, and janitorial, whether it's contracted or not. And so regarding having a person on staff that has a real estate license, we've been pursuing that. We have 2 current staff members in that group, and both of them are pursuing a real estate license, so they're doing the training, and it's a challenge for them. So we do not have somebody that's a real estate license or a broker on our staff.
Any further questions?
One quick one, Gov.
Treasurer Conine, go ahead.
Thanks, Governor. Mr. Patrick and audit team, I appreciate you taking the time to go through this. This audit actually came up originally when we were moving spaces from the 4th floor to this floor of Grant Sawyer, and we're trying to figure out what the numbers were, and it didn't seem to pencil for us, so I'm glad that we weren't crazy. I also wonder, you know, as we're going through the process of determining remodeling for Grant Sawyer, looking at the spaces that are leased outside of Grant Sawyer around that we're paying commercial rents for, I'm hopeful that getting a better handle on what we have from a state asset perspective will make that other work easier. But I just wanted to flag that coordinating all of that together, I think will be pretty important as opposed to doing it in silos. So, thanks.
Did you have a question of that? Or
Nope, just a comment.
Oh,
Sorry.
Okay. Any further questions on this one?
Yes, this is Barbara Sagaski.
Go ahead, Secretary.
Hello? Thank you. I just wanted to ask, you said you don't have anybody with a real estate license, but do you go to, or does the state have people that are qualified to look at the rates? And are there qualified real estate people that assist with any of this? Just asking. And again, Governor, I want to thank the staff for answering all of our questions that we had, and thank Warren again for all of his hard work. So thank you.
Ward Patrick for the record. There's 2 things here, and today this audit is about the rental space, which is owned space. And so there's, the Governor's Finance Office calculates the rental rates based on planned expenses and current, at the time, rented space square footage. So it's a very simple calculation, the total dollars that are needed divided by the total square feet that are being rented. And so there's no broker or leasing agent involved in that. It's more of a budgetary process. Then there's also the leasing side, which I think we're going to be discussing later in the agenda. But so we do consult brokers for some of those activities, especially when it's a new lease space. Thank you.
Thank you for the response.
Any further questions? Okay, you want to move on, Warren, to DPS?
Yes, Governor, thank you. Good afternoon, Governor and committee members. For the record, Saranjeet Bains, Executive Branch Auditor. Here to represent the Investigation Division is Chief Patrick Conway. Our audit focused on improving oversight of NDI's administrative functions. While NDI has done a satisfactory job of running day-to-day operations, there is still room for improvement. Administrative functions play a critical role in NDI accomplishing its law enforcement and public safety missions. Our audit found that improved oversight of federal grants, performance measures, and workforce diversity will help ensure more efficient and effective operations. To that end, we make 3 recommendations. First, to improve grants management and physical processes. Second, to develop performance measures that better align with NDI's strategic priorities. And lastly, to take proactive measures to promote workforce diversity. Regarding the first recommendation, we note that although the division has developed thorough internal controls to administer grants, they do not include guidelines which address timely expenditure reimbursements. Accurate and timely reporting is critical to complying with grant terms, as it may negatively impact current or future spending decisions. Additionally, NDI does not review and charge expenditures timely. Guidelines require charging the grant within 30 days. However, the division charged grants months after several expenditures occurred. Inadequate internal controls also resulted in the division not timely spending $1.6 million in federal grants within original grant periods. Our audit found that state fiscal year 2019 spending included charges against 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018 grants, indicating that multiple awards were not spent within original grant periods. The overall fiscal situation reflects challenges in grants management and inadequate spending plans, as the oldest grants should be spent down and closed. NDI can also improve grants management by using federal funds first before tapping into state general fund dollars from salary savings and compensatory time. NDI paid out approximately $160,000 of compensatory time through salary savings dating back to fiscal year 2018. Utilizing overtime in lieu of paying out compensatory time would help the division spend all grant funds, eliminate staff inefficiencies, and reduce spending of state funds. Second, we recommend that NDI develop performance measures that better align with their strategic priorities. Discussions with NDI management reveal that current arrest metrics are not effective in addressing its strategic priorities. Not only does the division not control the outcome of arrests, but arrests are not calculated consistently year to year. Performance measures based on arrests also make NDI vulnerable to producing quantity in the face of pressure without exercising proper discretion and judgment, although our audit found no such evidence. Enforcing reliable performance measures is important because they can affect budget and policy decisions made by oversight bodies, as well as judgments made by stakeholders and the public about NDI's operations. Lastly, we recommend NDI take proactive measures to promote workforce diversity. Minorities are underrepresented in NDI in comparison to other divisions within the Department of Public Safety and other law enforcement agencies in Nevada. The Department of Public Safety asserts a responsibility for personnel recruiting efforts, and as such, all sworn officers are hired internally. The department attributes recruiting challenges to lack of competitive pay and a negative atmosphere surrounding law enforcement careers. However, innovative approaches such as establishing relationships with members of the minority community and internships can encourage those from underrepresented communities to consider a profession with NDI. We would like to thank NDI management and their staff for the time and input throughout this audit. We would be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have at this time.
Do we have any questions for this one? Committee members? I've got one. Is it possible, I keep hearing this regularly, and I don't think it's anecdotal, about the salary comp study between public safety officers, our Highway Patrol, and other agencies. Could we get a kind of like a one-page sheet on that in terms of how those salaries compare?
Yes, this is Deputy Director Sherry Brigham, and we'd be happy to provide that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Moving on, that's information. Moving on to the follow-up audits. 5A, Cannabis Compliance Board.
Thank you, Governor. For the record, Warren Lohman. Just as a quick overview statement, we provide an annual follow-up, one hard copy, if you will, presentation a year after we've done the 6-month follow-up. So we're really looking at a time period of a year and a half after the original audit was presented to the committee. In this case, this audit migrated from the Department of Taxation to the Cannabis Compliance Board, and it's good to see the Executive Director, Tyler Klimas, here to sort of talk about that migration and any concerns he has. From our perspective, we do not have any concerns at this point in time. As they move forward with developing the licensing process for the lounges, it's our hope that that process will be something that can just be laid over whatever a licensing process would be for any sort of establishment, other lounges, other retail facilities, what have you. And in conversations with the board and with the executive director, we're quite confident that they will get to where we can look at these recommendations and call them fully implemented. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board regarding the follow-up on cannabis compliance? A. Anybody? Okay, close that one. Move on to 5B, Department of Administration, State Public Works Division, Leasing Services.
Good afternoon, Governor and members of the committee. Craig Stevenson for the record. This is the first annual follow-up to our Department of Administration State Public Works Division audit, DIA report number 20-02, which focused on minimizing the cost of commercially leased office space. Representing the Public Works Division is Ward Patrick, Administrator. Both recommendations are outstanding. First, we recommended Public Works ensure negotiated rates for commercial office space reflect the strength of the state's negotiating position. Since our 6-month follow-up, Public Works has taken the following actions. Revised the lease contract template to reserve the right to renegotiate rates for commercial office space throughout the lease term. Require agencies to submit space requests 12 months in advance instead of 6. And requested and received legislative authorization to purchase real estate market data to assist in leasing oversight. Full implementation of this recommendation is dependent upon the division establishing adequate oversight of strategic planning for future needs and implementation of leasing best practices with current staffing. Second, we recommend Public Works develop a method to ensure all available office space options are considered. Since our 6-month follow-up, Public Works began compiling missing state office space vacancy information and updated its office space inventory list. Agencies are now required to report vacancies as they occur, or a minimum of every biennium. Since submitting the status report on this recommendation, Public Works has requested and obtained much of the required vacancy information. Full implementation of this recommendation is dependent upon Public Works developing a method to ensure leasing services uses this vacancy information when considering all available options in state-owned and commercially leased properties. Mr. Patrick is available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Do any committee members have any questions on this one? 5B.
I have a quick one. This is Trudy DeLong, public member. I'm just curious, as far as I know you mentioned you couldn't take advantage of getting some of the software and that. Have you guys reached out to like UNR or anyone else, any other public type agency that does leasing and see if you can use their services or work with them? Because I know like universities lease all kinds of their space, and I don't know if there's any reciprocal agreement or something you could get into to help out with that.
Ward Patrick, Administrator, for the record. I would need to get back to you maybe in some correspondence on what we've done to research what others are doing, if that'd be all right.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll move on to 5C, Department of Administration and State Public Works Buildings and Grounds section.
Thank you, Governor. Craig Stevenson for the record. This is the first annual follow-up to our Department of Administration State Public Works Division audit, DIA report number 20-03, which focused on improving buildings and grounds project management. Representing Public Works is Ward Patrick, Administrator. There was one recommendation outstanding: to formally define construction contracts in the State Administrative Manual and establish policies and procedures to clarify the use of owner-contractor agreements. Public Works submitted a draft definition of construction contracts to the Governor's Finance Office for inclusion in the State Administrative Manual, which will require approval by the State Board of Examiners. Public Works also established written policies and procedures to clarify the use of owner-contractor agreements and updated the contracting checklist to reflect the changes. Full implementation of this recommendation is dependent upon approval of the proposed definition of construction contracts in the State Administrative Manual and compliance with the new policies and procedures for owner-contractor agreements. Mr. Patrick is available to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions on 5C? Anybody up north have any questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it. Moving on, close that one. Move on to number 6, status of outstanding audit recommendations.
Thank you, Governor. For the record, Warren Lohman. This is the first of several tabs where we're doing our annual administrative update to the committee and ultimately asking for your approval on the plan, the audit plan, and our annual report. Tab 6 is a look at the outstanding audit recommendations that we are still following and tracking. Unless the committee has any questions, we have no particular concern at this point about the progress that agencies are making. With respect to the governor's comments, last year the agencies did a very, very good job of being more detailed in the actions that they were taking to achieve implementation of the recommendations, and we would thank them very much for their support on this.
No, I thank you for that, Warren. The status notes are really helpful. You know what's been happening, so it's good for me. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any questions on this? Nope. Okay, moving on. Number 7, estimated benefits to Nevadans from audit recommendation.
Thank you, Governor. For the record, Warren Lohman. This is our summary of the dollar benefits that we are currently taking into account to support our performance measure for invested into the internal audit section and a return to the state. The last page in red at the bottom shows you that in fiscal year 2021, for every dollar invested in internal audits, we've returned $87 in benefit to the state. Unless the committee has any specific questions, that would conclude my summary and overview of this section.
No, I think that's great, and that's something that I have stressed, and Treasurer Conine has stressed. This is not an expense, it's an investment in these programs to return significantly for the state. Do we have any questions on that one? Okay, I'll move on to number 8. Approval of Division's annual report pursuant to NRS 353A.065.
Thank you, Governor. Tab 8 is the 2021 annual report, and as required by statute, it's the committee's responsibility to approve this report. So unless there are any questions for the committee about it, it summarizes last year's activities. We would appreciate your approval of the annual report.
Do we have any questions regarding this annual report?
I just have a quick comment on all 3 of these reports. This is Trudy DeLong, public member. Just having come from an audit background, I really want to thank you for the diligence in putting together the information in a succinct manner that's understandable to people other than auditors. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a wonderful staff that works on this to put all of that detail in.
We appreciate it. Do I have a motion on this one?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Item number 9, approval of the annual audit plan.
Thank you, Governor. This, per statute, is an annual requirement for the committee to approve our audit plan for the upcoming year. If you'll note, those audits in red are the ones that we're requesting your approval on. The others have been approved. The result of those that we're requesting is from our risk assessment that we conduct after the legislative session every biennium, and we've added these. I would say that we're on schedule to look at the audits scheduled for February 22, and fairly on schedule for all of the others. There may be some adjustments, onesies, twosies, but in general, this is where we're going, and we've got roughly 2 years of work planned, and we would request your approval on the audits that we'd like to add.
It's good to me. Do we have any discussion on this one? Do I have a motion to add those items to the audit plan?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 10. Do we have any committee member comments? Anybody have any comments? Okay, I'll close committee member comments. Move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment? None down here. Any public comment up north?
Do not see any, Governor.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.